Perseus and the Gorgon, retold by Leslie Sims. Chapter 1. The Sea Monster. Long ago and deep beneath the sea there lived a monster. This monster was 10 times bigger than any whale. Its mouth was as wide as a cave and its teeth were sharper than any spears. For years the monster prowled the deep sea near ancient Greece, feeding on sharks and giant squid. It was kept firmly under control by Poseidon, god of the seas. But lately, the monster had been eating men. Bursting from the depths, it smashed through ships, scattering fishermen into the water. Then it opened its cavernous mouth and gobbled them up with one snap of its jaws. The villagers living near the sea were terrified of the monster, which had been named Cetus. Not knowing what else to do, they marched in a group to the royal palace, demanding to see the king. "The creature Cetus is murdering our fishermen," they yelled. "Send your guards to kill it. You must destroy the monster." King Cepheus came out onto his balcony, and he gazed down at the angry villagers with a troubled frown. He had no idea where to start in order to save his people and his kingdom. So he went back to his throne, deep in thought. Cetus, the creature, was a menace, and it was all his wife's fault. She had boasted that their daughter Andromeda was far more beautiful than any of the mermaids who served Poseidon in the sea. So Poseidon decided to punish them and let the monster go wild and wreak havoc. Desperate, the king Cepheus consulted a priest. The priest's advice appalled him, however. "There is only one way to pacify Poseidon," the priest said. "You must offer your only daughter to the monster as a sacrifice." The king and queen were grief-stricken, and their young daughter Andromeda was terrified. None of them knew that help was on the way, and from a surprising young man too. Chapter 2. Perseus. The young man in question was currently in trouble and hiding from royal guards. His name was Perseus, and the local king, Polydectes, wanted to marry Perseus's mother. Unfortunately, she didn't want to marry him. Perseus had heard the king's guards were on their way, and he hurried his mother from their home, trying to find a place to hide. As they cowered beside the back wall, they heard the tramp of the guards approaching, and then a fist hammering on their front door. "Come out!" shouted a voice. "We know you're in there." Perseus saw his mother tremble, and he gave her a tight hug. "Don't worry, mother," he reassured her. "If we're quick, we can hide in the forest. They'll have to go back to Polydectes without us." Tugging her hand, he raced down the street, but the king seemed to have sent his entire army. There were so many guards. They were everywhere. "Over there!" one of them yelled. "After them!" Across the street, the village priest called to Perseus, "This way, I'll hide you." Perseus didn't hear, so he pulled his mother onto another street and ducked down into an alley. It was a dead end. They turned to run back and found guards now blocking the end of the alley. The guards stomped menacingly closer. Perseus stepped in front of his mother. "Don't come any nearer," he warned the guards, but they kept coming. "It's just your mother we want," growled one of them. Perseus hurled himself at them, hoping to barge them over, but the guards were far too strong. A fist crashed against his head, and he fell to the ground. "Tell the king I'll do anything he wants if he leaves my mother alone," Perseus cried. "I'll even bring him the head of Medusa, the snake woman herself." The guards laughed in disbelief. Medusa was a Gorgon, a monster so ugly that just one glance at her face would turn men to stone. "Ha! We'll tell him," said the guards as they dragged his mother away. Perseus desperately tried to lift himself up, but all the breath had been knocked out of him. "I'll fetch Medusa's head," he promised his mother, "and I'll use it to turn King Polydectes to stone." Then pain overwhelmed him, and his eyes fluttered shut. He was unconscious. Perseus woke to find himself lying on a bed in a gloomy house. Daylight shone through cracks in the wooden walls, dazzling his bleary eyes. "Ah, good, you're awake," said a voice. "Huh?" said Perseus, struggling to see as he opened his eyes. The village priest was watching him. "Ah!" Perseus started to sit up and moaned as pain shot through his head. "Where am I? What happened?" "I saw you trying to save your mother from the king's guards," said the priest, "and I heard what you said about Medusa. But you were in no state to fight anything, so I brought you to my house to recover." "Now," he said, "there are things you need to know. First, your father." "Oh, I don't know who my father is," Perseus interrupted. "I've never even met him." "I'm not surprised," the priest replied, "because it's Zeus, king of the gods." "What?" cried Perseus, astounded. "But how is that possible?" "My father is Zeus," he repeated. But that means I'm half god. King Polydectes won't be able to stop me. I must go to the palace and rescue my mother at once." And he stood up from the bed. At once the priest sprang in front of him, blocking the door. "Don't be a fool," he said. "You wouldn't get anywhere near your mother. The palace has hundreds of guards. There's no way you can defeat them on your own, whoever your father was." "No," he went on, "you must do as you promised your mother. Find and kill the Gorgon Medusa, then come back and turn her head on the king so that he becomes stone." Now Perseus looked doubtful. "But even if I am Zeus's son," he said, "can I really defeat Medusa? Some of the country's bravest warriors have tried, but all of them have failed and died." "The gods will send gifts to help you," said the priest. As he spoke, a razor-sharp sword and shimmering shield appeared. "The sword will cut anything," the priest explained. "And you can look at Medusa safely in the shield. Her reflection has no power." He went to a cupboard, took out a leather bag, and handed it to Perseus. "For the Gorgon's head," he said grimly. "Now go to the forest and find the 3 witches. Only they know where Medusa lives." The story will be continued next week. Bye-bye.